Hello and welcome to this edition of the presidential election race, an overview of the state of the race as of October the 28th, 2024. My name is John Toffelmeyer. And today, as with my previous videos, I'm going to go over a brief overview of the national race, which has been pretty static, slowly moving in Trump's direction. But it looks pretty static. But then I'm going to turn my attention to the early voting and, in particular, the state, what appears to be the state of the race in Nevada. The Republicans are widening their lead, and there's some very interesting and important implications of that, of what the numbers we're seeing out of Nevada. I'm also going to talk about North Carolina, which looks very toss up. It's almost a dead heat between the Republicans and the Democrats. And then Pennsylvania, which has more cheery news for the Democrats in terms of the early mail-in voting that's coming in there. So with that, let's turn our attention to the national picture. And nationally, we haven't seen much of a change. The race has been static for a few days now. I have it 50-50. A real clear is now 0.2 tenths, 2/10 of a percent lead for Trump. It's pretty much a dead heat in the popular vote. On the other hand, I think this translates, as I've reported before. Trump is leading in all of the swing states, the 7 states that are going to decide this election. And let's just run over those briefly. Nevada 0.6, although I'm going to go over some numbers that suggest to me that there actually might be a lot more than this. But that's at least what the polling is telling. Wisconsin 0.8, Michigan 1.0, North Carolina 1.4. The data so far kind of supports that's a tight race there. Pennsylvania 1.7. The early voting Democrats are in the lead there, but it's hard to tell from that information. Arizona 2.1 and Georgia 2.6. The Electoral College unchanged, 312, 226. These are numbers that you've seen elsewhere, so I don't think there's anything even interesting to report about that. But let's turn our attention to what is interesting, and it is the state of the race in Nevada. And these are the early in-person and mail voting totals as of October the 28th. These figures just dropped a few hours ago. So these are really fresh figures. And the total votes cast, the Republicans are now leading in both in-person and mail voting totals by about 40,000 votes. And they've got about 40. So it's a almost 6 percentage point lead. This is a major difference from 2020. In 2020, the Democrats had a solid, roughly, off the top of my head, about a 60,000 vote margin in the total in-person and mail voting totals. Then the other, and that's other independent, about a quarter of the electorate so far are unaffiliated that have cast their votes. And now what I'm going to do, so we have these numbers, and that says, well, the Republicans should be leading. They've got 40,000 votes. How can we translate that into actual votes for Kamala Harris and for Donald Trump? Well, the way we can do that is look at actual polling data. Oh, and I just wanted to just briefly, I got the source that I originally got all this information was the University of Florida site. They've got a great site. I just wanted to give a shout out for that. They're doing great work there. I'm going to talk more about that at some another date. But it's great work that they're doing. If you're interested, go check out their website. But this is the Nevada party affiliation polling for 2024. and this is crosstab. What I did was I took 5 polls, and these numbers are different than what I was using earlier. I was only using the Bloomberg poll, the Bloomberg Morning Consult poll, and I was looking at the swing state polling by Bloomberg Morning Consult. But what I've done here is I've taken these 5 polls that are listed there, the Bloomberg, Fabrizio Anzalone, Insider Advantage, Atlas, Intel, and the Hill Emerson. Those are pretty good polling organizations overall. So I think we're getting good numbers. But what I want to focus on, because you can see the Democratic and Republican are kind of similar numbers, so it's kind of a wash. So we can say that if the Republicans are have more, well, Trump is probably leading among them. Then the picture is, what about the independents? And the independents, because we've got about 25% of the electorate are independents, unaffiliated. These figures, the figures that I got from these 5 polls, suggest that Trump has about a 4.7% percentage lead among this group. And this is much different than the figure I was using earlier when I was just using the Bloomberg figure. This is a very important assumption. It has a huge implication, as I'm going to show you in just a moment. Trump having a big lead there. The Republicans, as we saw earlier, having a big lead in terms of the number of votes cast. So let's take a look and see, how does that translate into actual votes. If we spread out these votes, we take those votes and allocate that to each of the party affiliation, the people that have party affiliation that have voted, and we come up with this figure. This is what I think. This is my estimate of the early voting, what would be the actual numbers for Trump and Harris, and then an estimation of the other as of October the 28th. So these are just hours old. I have Trump up by 47,000 votes, and a 6.8%. I'm sorry, it's a 6.8% spread in the percentage spread. That's a big spread. And when you look at the 2020 figures in the in-person voting, the last four days, which are coming up, are really going to pick up. The amount of voting picks up, but the Republicans, at least 4 years ago, had an advantage. So there's going to have to be a huge Democratic vote that's going to come out of the closet, and also the Republicans have significantly cut into the Democrats' lead in mail-in voting. It's only about a 10% spread, whereas 4 years ago it was about a 20% percentage point spread in the share. So there's going to have to be a ton of Democrats that are going to just have to come out of the woodwork that have been hiding for some reason, or that the independents, in spite of the polling, in spite of what happened 4 years ago, that in fact that we're completely wrong, and that there's a huge Democratic vote that's hidden in the independent vote. So, all of those things could be happening. They could be happening. You can't rule anything out. You can't put a 0% probability on it. But I have to say that the most likely state of the election right now, most likely probability, is right what we're seeing here, that Trump has a significant lead. And I haven't seen this analysis anywhere else. So I'm just perplexed as to why nobody has talked. That people should be shouting about this, because I think it has major implications. Perhaps the Democrats are going to close this margin by a bit, but it's hard for me to see. And if this holds up to election day, Trump could carry Nevada by a good solid margin. It's just the national implications are huge. If this is representative of the other swing states, Well, you use your imagination. Uh, it's I think it could be a good night for Donald Trump on election night. So let's turn our attention to the other two states where I've done the same analysis, and I'm going to show you the results that I have. They're not as indicative as in Nevada. And first in North Carolina, I basically have it's a toss up. It's a dead heat. It's virtually tied. I don't think these numbers, even though they're robust, and they're almost all in-person voting. There's a little bit of mail-in voting. I think I said yesterday that they were mail-in voting, but it's almost all in-person voting. So, uh, but the difference is that I think uh, the independent vote is it's not as clear. I've used I've used 5 or 6 polls here, but I don't think it's as clear as in Nevada. There's a little bit on both directions, so I think there's a little bit more volatility. And what I'm saying here is I wouldn't read much into who has a lead here. This is too small that based on that this could there's a lot of potential movement up and down in the real numbers here compared to what we're seeing in Nevada. So the Democrats seem to have a very small lead. Finally, let's turn our attention to Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, the early vote. Harris has a big lead, 22% uh, margin. Again, here, the independent vote, there's a huge volatility here. So this is going to be a hard one, even, and there's still going to be a huge day of voting here. So because of that, and because of, I think there's a lot more uncertainty around the independent other party vote that's being cast and reported on uh, in Pennsylvania, that I don't think you're really going to be able to say very much about the state of this election. The Democrats are going to go into election day with a pretty good sized lead. That I can tell you. The Republicans are going to have to catch up on in-person voting on the day of the election. So that's the state of the election. And to summarize, big stuff out of Nevada. Um, People I don't think are talking about this enough. So if you think this analysis is interesting, please like and share. And I'm going to be dropping another video with updates on these states and maybe bring in 1 or 2 others tomorrow. So I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. I'm going to be here. Thanks for watching, and we will see you soon. Thanks. Bye.